There we go. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Coach, for availing yourself. David, good to see you. Thank you for being here. We will start with Ashfaq. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, John-William and David. Coach, in terms of the away record, just seems like it's almost two different teams, two different Bulls teams when you play at Loftus or in South Africa and when you get to Europe. In your analysis, what seems to be the issue?
Ashfaq, it's difficult to pinpoint or so because every venue brings its own challenges up. Obviously, on the 4G pitch or so on, that brings up a lot of game speed, which we in South Africa are a little bit almost accustomed to a little bit of more of a slower game than what the European teams do here on their pitch. They're used to those conditions in the wet, in the long turf and the short 4G pitches as well. They're accustomed to playing a very fast game on those pitches. And that's something we haven't quite accustomed to as of yet to do that. But according to our last stats of the Munster game, we're slowly but surely getting there if you compare that to what we did last year on tour.
So it should be quite different against Benetton, because I imagine is that also 4G pitch or a normal pitch?
It's a normal pitch. It's a very normal pitch. Similar conditions to what we have in South Africa. If we take on the heat and so on, what we're training this week was completely different to what we had last week in nice cold weather and so on. This is almost the same heat and humidity as in South Africa. But speaking of that, these Oaks are currently playing the second fastest game aside from Leinster currently in the competition.
Maybe if I can just ask David the same question, David. I mean, you guys play and score some wonderful tries in South Africa, but just the knock-ons come in and the liner doesn't quite function and backline maybe not the same fluidity. Or what is the issue in overseas?
Ashfaq, I think Johnny said it all. I mean, it's quite difficult to adapt to basically, if I can put it away, a whole seasonal change. Like we mentioned, how hot and dry it was in South Africa compared to where we came to Glasgow. It was raining the whole week. It was wet. It was cold. So and likewise with Munster or in Limerick. So I think it's the ability to adapt in those conditions. But there's still no excuse. We have to, being on the level we are, we have to be able to adapt to that and to play the same brand of rugby that we play and that wins us games.
Kenny?
Thanks, Songa. Hi, John-William. How's it, David? David, you mentioned adapting to conditions. You've also had to adapt to a move to inside centre. Judging by how you played last weekend, it seems a couple of weekends before that, it seems to have gone really well. How have you enjoyed that move? And just talk to us about your performance off the bench last weekend, which was very good.
The adaptation or whatever you call it to 12 is really an exciting one for me. It's very different to being an outside back. I mean, you're more involved in the game and basically see it as a second general after the 10 in organizing and directing the forwards and so on. So it's been a really enjoyable transition for me. And hopefully I can get a couple of more opportunities to grow into that position. And the performance last week, I just went onto the pitch wanting to bring a spark, bring something so that could spark on the team. Being in the position that we were, I feel we needed that spark. And I just wanted to go out, do my job, and hopefully benefit the team in that manner.
Thanks, Kenneth. Ashfaq?
David, if I may ask, which position do you prefer 15, 12, 13, wing, you've played everywhere.
Yeah, it's actually quite difficult to have a preferred position. I mean, every position has its pros and cons. But yeah, I've really enjoyed 12. It's been a while since I played 13, and yeah, more regularly played 15 and on the wings. So yeah, it's actually difficult to answer that question. Like I said, every position has its pros and cons. But yeah, I'm just happy to have the opportunity to play and to be needed where I am needed, and yeah, to help make the team win wherever that is. Either from, even if I have to play prop, I'll take the opportunity to play. So yeah, just to have an influence on the team, that makes me happy.
Is 'n bietjie lank vir Stit, David.
Ja, ek wou maar net uitdruk. Like,
Yeah,
every opportunity is gold, and you have to take that opportunity with both hands.
Well, what is it about 12, David, that you really seem to be enjoying?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The amount of times you're actually involved in the game, whether it's attack or defense. I mean, if you compare it to like wing or fullback, I mean, a 12 is in the center of the park, next to the 10s, next to the flankers. So on defense, you're involved a hell of a lot more than on the edges. And on the attack, it's the decisions you make on attack is what intrigues me, and you know, just to build around the shape of the team, and yeah, basically just involvement. Yeah, literally, you don't have to wait for the ball to come to your side. You're basically in a position where the ball comes to you. So yeah, just to be involved and have an influence. That's what intrigues me about 12.
Carl.
Good afternoon, gents. John-William, maybe you can explain to us your role at the Bulls. I mean, a technical analyst, does it more have your job more entails after the match, telling what was wrong, or what kind of role do you play in planning for the match?
For the match, well, basically, if I say after the match, obviously all the analysis in terms of did we execute our plan, why not, how many opportunities we got, etc., and then individual statistics, tackles made, missed, etc., as per usual. But then also the prep for the next team, as of give the coaches packages in terms of lineouts wise. This is what the team's up to lineout wise. They throw so many middle balls, back balls in this area of the field. They tend to do this movement of lineouts, this movement of scrums, kicking. This is where they look for kick space, almost like a whole dossier on the opponent's teams. And then we as a coaching group sit together and we run through statistics as well as video clips in order to get our plan together as a coaching group before we present to the players.
So you know exactly what Benetton will bring. What will they bring to you, and where will they test you?
Definitely, if I look at what they previously did against teams like Leinster, I played Dragons or so on the weekend as well, and these Oxford Edinburgh on the weekend, they'll definitely bring a kicking game challenge for us, something which we haven't been hitting the sweet spot of as of late, and just trying to expose that kick space behind us. But other than that, they're very physical. They're very good on defense. I mean, even the younger guys on the team knocked some pretty big buys, test players against Edinburgh, knocked them back up. They're a solid defense team, and they bring a lot of variation on their attack. I see they've got a sneaky couple of moves up in the 22, also variations which we haven't seen from other teams yet.
Thank you, Carl. Yes, Ashfaq.
If I can just ask Johnny, in terms of the Bulls defense, I know there have been some issues there, and obviously Jake is now handling that. Is it more case of perhaps just a one-on-one tackles, or is it a system issue?
I think, Ashfaq, just to get on you, I mean, a previous game against Munster, so one-on-one tackles was actually, although we missed a few, which we'll never, probably no system is foolproof in that. But I actually thought our one-on-one tackles were spot on, although we didn't get that much dominant hits, but we made most of our tackles. We had an 88% tackle percentage. I think the thing that puts us under pressure is a little bit of our kicking game, kicking inaccurately at times or so on, which put our defensive structure under huge pressure when the kicks went too long or the execution of that kicking play didn't go according to plan, which put us under pressure.
And I guess also in terms of the breakdown officiating, it's not really in your hands. Sometimes calls go for you and against others, against you in other situations. How do you sort of deal with that?
Ashfaq, it's a difficult one. So we actually tried to go through a lot of clips. I know Breakdown Knowledge goes through a lot of clips. We speak with Tapa on a regular basis in terms of clarifying or getting clarity on certain calls and what teams do, even on other matches also, just to get that blueprint of this is allowed, this is not allowed, although that is open in some cases to referees' interpretation on the day. Just thinking on, if you look at the Lions-Ulster game, for example, both teams there rolling away in front of into the 9 was not blown as hard as what it was blown in our game. So that's the type of thing that makes it difficult. What is allowed, what is not allowed. And we're just trying to get as much clarity as that as possible with the referees association through Tapa and them beforehand.
JJ.
Yeah, for the both of you actually, when you go through these types of clips and see, okay, a referee officiates a game this way, but when you get on the field, it's just the opposite way around. As a player, does that like frustrate you, and what do you do in such an instance? And for the coaches as well, there must be some kind of compromise where the governing body should actually step in and say, okay, listen, this is how the law should be blown and not up to the referee's discretion.
Yeah, JJ, as a player, it's very frustrating. Being a player, knowing some of the laws, or not every law, but knowing most of the laws that's needed to be known, and knowing that whoever you play against is in the wrong and it's not getting blown for, it's very, very frustrating. But yeah, I have to give it to Marcel and our leadership group in the game. Even though it's frustrating, they take it on. I take it on with the ref, lets them know about the mistake, even though they don't want to accept it. But then we have to adapt in that moment. We have to, like I said, we have to adapt and just play the ref on the day in whichever manner he blows. But yeah, it's very frustrating if a call doesn't go our way.
Carl, we'll go to you, and then after Carl, we'll go to Ashfaq.
David, John-William just said that the analysis showed that the tackles weren't dominant tackles. And during the press conference after the game, a lot of journalists said that the Bulls were bullied. Jake didn't agree with us. But is it a coaching problem? That not making the dominant tackles, not being physical, or how do you fix it as players?
I think that's like a very personal thing within yourself. Whether you do some self-reflecting on whether you are happy or satisfied with the hits and the amount of hits you put in. So it's actually quite a difficult one to answer, but it basically goes down to self-reflection. And if you believe that the hits that you made or how physical you were, if you're satisfied with that, then if it builds with the team and helps the team forward, then it's good. But if it's not, then like I said, it goes to self-reflection, and you have to fix that within yourself. And that's all I have to say about that.
Ashfaq.
Thanks, Lunga. David, just in terms of Friday's game, Benetton. We know what happened the last time the Bulls were there, but we all know that the Bulls are a better team than what you guys have shown the last 2 weeks. How do you sort of just get that spirit back in that rhythm, particularly on attack? I know weather sometimes plays a role, but yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Ashfaq, we're a much better team than what we showed the past 2 weeks. And there's definitely a couple of scars on the majority, or not the majority, on the whole group about how our tour has been going. So I think that's enough motivation to just to get back onto the horse and show what we're made of, what we're capable of. So I think we're ready for Friday, and we want to end this tour off on a high note.
Simon?
Thanks, Lunga. Hello, guys. John-William, I just want to go back to understanding on the part that you made mention of your regular discussions with Topper. Now, we sometimes have the privilege to listen in and to tap into Topper, so to speak, and get his version of the way that we see stuff. I suppose that it is a work in progress. Referees and the application of the laws and the interpretation of the laws and the laws itself, it is a work in progress, and you will not immediately see results. However, and I say this very deliberately, can you see improvement from day to day? I know the URC competition is just but in a sixth level of play this week, but can you see improvement? Is there a hope of improvement? And first of all, that part of the question, and then secondly, towards the players, listening to what David has just said about the morale and the feedback and the follow back and the knowing that it's a much better team that plays but has to adapt. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think on the first part or so, it's obviously, yes. I think the more we have conversations with a guy like Tapa and the referees or so on, the more we start seeing eye to eye. It might not be effect as if we've had a meeting, next week everything will be sorted out. Like you say, it's a rolling work on. But definitely at the end, the longer we do that and the more we interact with them, both referees and coaches will start seeing, as well as players will start seeing the same picture. And once we get that, which will obviously bring in some new rule changes, etc., and so on, to keep it interesting. But that's unfortunately the game. And when those teams do it to us, then they have South African referees blowing them. They sit with exactly the same thing. So I think it's an all-around issue. But the more this discussed, the more clips is shared with coaches and referees and players on, the more clarity there will become over time, and that will obviously help. Then on the second part with just on the morale, I think yes, we've got a group of players here that I think we as coaches we just do the process, we review the process. We trust the process and we enforce the process. The players actually, they sit together and they come up and say, listen here, guys, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and I've lifted. We have not hit a situation where we need to intervene or so on. Everybody is still positive. Everybody believes in what we do, and everybody is on the same page here, players and management alike. So.
Thank you, Simon. Ken Bolland.
Thanks, Tonga. John-William, just following on from that answer, you mentioned South African referees, but is it a bit of a worry for South African teams that there are actually very few South African referees involved in the competition? I mean, when you guys play at home, you generally get a Northern Hemisphere referee as well. So it's as if you're getting like a double whammy almost.
Yeah, it is supposedly so in some instances, definitely. But if we're playing at home, the home team advantage, and the Bulls and Lions being fortunate enough to play at altitude, which is very little of these teams are used to, or very fortunate in that. That takes a huge effort out of opposition teams. But having saying that, then obviously the home team referees, if you look at referees blown, the matches are always stacked in certain referees that are 100% home team wins. And so those 50-50 calls naturally goes for the home team and not against them. As opposed to where here, it's obviously you feel it goes against you, but you're not the home team here. So that's a stat that unfortunately has worked itself out through years and years of rugby with the home team getting the benefit.
Cool. We have about 3 minutes before the conclusion of this open media session. If there are no follow-up questions, we will then let both Coach John-William as well as David Kriel go and enjoy the rest of their afternoon. Any further questions? Going once, twice? Coach, David, thank you so much. Appreciate you making the time. We will catch up.
So, thank you, guys.
Guys.
Thank you.
Guys.